Hi, it's Nancy, welcoming you to Garden Scroll. And I wanted to show you this lace cap hydrangea again while it's in pretty full bloom. They are so lovely. And I don't know if you can see that little black lotus bloom right there. There's several on the plant. They're tiny, but they're so pretty. They look like black velvet. Today is June the 12th, and I wanted to show you some of the things going on in the garden today. You can see one thing is that things are growing, filling out and looking, most of them are just looking pretty healthy and good. And that's always a good thing. I'm seeing this pretty little lantana is blooming today. And my calabricoa has got some pretty blooms on it. I may need to trim that down before long so it can bloom again. And I did trim this little grouping of petunias and the mini petunias, the calabricoa, and look how pretty they are. It did respond for me this time. Sometimes they just don't that much for me, but I've also heard if you keep them pinched back that they will bloom again. Just to always pinch it all the way back, not just to pull the bloom out, but pinch it all the way back where you get the seed part of it too, because once it makes its seed, it tells the plant to stop, that it can stop now. It doesn't have to keep putting on flowers, but if you pinch them off, it thinks, well, I've got to make seeds, so it'll go right ahead and keep going for you. Most usually, I've had some of them to do great for me, and I've had some of them to just die out for me, so we'll see how it will turn out. But I'm very happy with the way it turned out this time. I hear that my neighbors may not be very happy. I don't know if you can hear that, but the kids are kind of screaming at each other over there. And my sister and her husband are buying a new home, and I just thought I would kind of put some things on her. She said she needed my advice on what to put in her flower bed or a flower garden. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can put on here some of the plants that I would recommend. Actually, I would recommend hostas. They're just green, but they're many shades of green, and if you need something for the shade, they're just so wonderful for the shade, and they're big and bright and beautiful, or maybe small and beautiful. I have some small ones too. Now I'm kind of trying to look around to get to one of them, and I don't see it, but gosh, this may be what I was calling my small one, and look how big it is. But I think this is the lipstick blonde hosta, and it is a smaller leafed hosta than most of them. You can see the one behind it is bigger there. So, but you can find so many different varieties of hostas, and you'll surely find one that you're going to love, and the shapes of the leaves and how big they are. This is Summon Substance, which is very big and beautiful, and I do put mine in pots, so I'm sure that probably stunts their growth some. But I'm looking at this pretty copper plant, but this is a non-hardy plant, so I bring it in each winter. So far it's been coming back out alive for me. I'm so happy. And this one actually came out green, but look how it's already changed its color to this pretty copper color. And I love this earth sign back here too. Um, it's not going to be one of the plants I'm going to recommend, and the only reason is because it also is not hardy. But these, I can clip them off and put them in the window, and they make a little root and then start right back up and go again the next season. They're pretty easy to save, and that's pretty much the same with this bougainvillea, which I love it so much, and I have not gotten out here and put some one time I gave it some plant food, but they are heavy feeders and they like to be fed at least every 2 weeks, so I want to get out and do that as soon as I can. But I do have just a whole lot on my agenda too, and I'm just going to definitely be showing you some of the things that are in the garden, as well as some of the things that I want to recommend for my sister. One thing I'll say is that I would recommend always having a pot that you can just change out and put annuals in, because it's fun, and you can go look at the nurseries and just see what kind of plants you like. And I'm so glad I have one of these left. I had a little pack of 4 and the other 3 died, but I think this one is planning on living for me. So yes, that's some of the most fun for me, is going to the nurseries and picking out the new plants and getting to see all the new plants. And I'm going to go back to this bougainvillea one more time, because it is a pretty green like the hostas, but that's not what I was necessarily going to tell you. That when it blooms, that's when its glory is, and its bloom looks just like crepe paper. It's such a beautiful, and mine is a pink. They're all pretty, but the pink is my favorite. It just totally reminds me of when we were kids and we worked with crepe paper at school. So, and we did different little activities with it and made things, and that it looks just like something we would have made there, and it's covered with blooms and so beautiful. But I definitely need to give it some more food too, so it can and will do that for me. But yes, there's so many you'll want to just try, but you won't necessarily want to keep all those things, because it is a lot of trouble if you don't have a lot of time to mess with them. And this is one of those, the calabacoa, which some people can just grow it, and it always does fine for them. For me, I have trouble keeping it past the end of June, sometimes not even that far, but I'm still hoping. The one thing I found is that it does like African violet soil. It does much better for me when I put the African violet soil on it, and again, it is another one of those heavy feeders. But this little round mound, and this one is in a pretty good sized pot, but they look just as beautiful in the ground as they do in pots. Either way, they come back. This one has came back in this pot for several years. They just make a pretty round mound and look so pretty. And I've had mine to flop and not be a mound at all, but just scraggly looking, but still pretty. But I knew they could look like this because my sister Kathy had one that was just a perfect little mound, and I wanted mine to be for so long. I finally got like a peony support and put over it the ones in the back that are in the ground. But this one so far has just grown by itself into that little mound, and hers did, and it was in the ground. So I'm not exactly sure what changes or makes a difference in that, but it's one of the beautiful plants that I would recommend. It just has a little pretty green mound. It doesn't take very much water. It'll keep going in the heat, and in the fall it will have pretty little tufts on it. I think this one is Autumn Joy, and it's a little muted pink, but it's very pretty, and it brings the pollinators. You'll see the butterflies and the bees for sure on this little plant, and it keeps right on going. You won't have to be out here babying it around. And you know, if you have a little pot that you don't know what to put in it and you don't have time to mess with it very much, just put some rose moss in it because it will come back from seed the next year. It'll be small and it'll be a little while before it gets anything like this big, but it will come back. You won't have to worry with it, and you'll have a pretty little plant that will have pretty blooms. Not always, but every time a few days after you give it food, or after it gets rain and God gives it food, it will bloom and be beautiful. And this is the little lipstick pink Hosta lipstick blonde that I'm planning on giving to my granddaughter. This is hers. But this shows you that it can be a little small one and just be so pretty. Actually, I didn't know it'd get as big as that one I just showed to you. I was thinking that big part was from the back one, which is a bigger leaf one. But either way, it's beautiful. So like one year you can have a pot full of impatiens, and then the next year you might think, I don't want to mess with that, and you can just put some rose moss there, and the next year it'll just come back and keep coming back, most usually for years to come, or until you're ready to put some more impatiens or whatever else you might want in them. But this catmint, that is one I would definitely recommend to my little sister or to anybody else. And I've got this one in a good sized pot, and I like it. I like it in the pot. It just looks so much better when it's raised up and you can see it all, and the sunlight can get on it. And it's just a beautiful plant, even if it's in the ground, but it shows it off to me, it seems like it's very best when it's in a pot and standing up where you can see the whole stem full of pretty blue blooms. And these are kind of going away now, not yet, they haven't totally, but they are going, and they will soon. But just shear them off and it won't be very long. They'll come back and last till frost. So that's why I would recommend it, why I love it. It's hardy. It's going to come back next year. I've had to change this one out in the pot only one time, and that was because my pot, my drain hole got stopped up, and it got waterlogged, and just everything died in it. So, and I love this little coreopsis that I have at the top of this too, just because I love yellow and blue together. It just makes a pretty color scheme. And for that matter, if you want color scheme, you can even take your pot, which mine is not, but you can make your pot the pretty yellow or a pretty blue to kind of show off. That way you could have your yellow and blue together with just the pot, instead of having to kind of rig it up like this. But I like this, and so either way, just the catmint itself you will love. It's one of the plants I have all over in my garden, and back and front, because it's so easy. It takes care of itself pretty much, except for that one little shear that you'll want to do just to keep it going, keep it blooming. And it's hardy, and it comes back, and it draws the butterflies and bees. You can probably hear the bees buzzing around it right now. Let me see if I can get over to where one is busy. I don't know if you're able to see that, but there's one there, and then the butterfly just flew from there. So they love it, just like I do. And to my friend Oma, can you believe how these little cannas are doing? They're just blooming, or not blooming yet, but they're just growing like crazy. They look beautiful. Just the foliage itself looks so pretty here. The cannas do, however, need to be lifted in the fall, and sometimes just all of that stuff can be way more than you're bargaining for. But, you know, it just depends on how much time you want to deal with them. But those two plants that I mentioned are so far the ones I would say that I would definitely recommend. The daylilies are pretty. They only last a day, but usually there's another bloom or another bud right there behind them to open the next day. And the only reason I would not necessarily recommend them, and I'm not saying not to, I'm just going to my top recommendations because I wouldn't take this one out of my garden. They're very pretty. I love the daylilies, but they do need to be divided ever so often, and I sometimes don't get around to that when there's so many and so much to do. This is another little pot that I changed from the cocoa liner pot to just a regular pot, and I think I'm going to like it much better this way. Don't have to replace cocoa liners all the time. And I guess, you know, I would definitely recommend sedums too. If there's a little spot, that this is a sedum like the one I just showed you, only it's a small one, like a miniature of this is called a thunderstorm. No, I'm sorry, this is called a thundercloud, and it's the miniature one to the thunderstorm, only this one has white blooms in the fall. So they're easy to take care of. You don't have to water them so often at all, and if you just need something to put in a little spot where you don't have to take care of it every day, but you want it to be pretty as much as it will be, and this one will be. They stay pretty until frost comes and start out in the spring, and almost always come back even in a pot. And I've got an array of sedums in this little pot, so you can find many different colors of the sedum too, and you can blend them together and make a little showing like that, or just put them all the same kind in a pot. They look beautiful either way you want to do it. Like these little pots here, they are under the eave of the house, so they don't get water even when it rains. Not very often do they get that water, but they won't take much water. You can put one out here, and just your own water that you do every once in a while will keep them right through it so that they will continue to look good. Here's another cocoa liner pot, but I may never take this one out. It's just too big to find a pot to go there, I think, but we'll see. I may someday find that. This little plant is called Gara, or swirling butterflies, and that's what it does. It comes up on a little tall stem that's just a little wiry stem, and so every little breeze lets the little blooms just swirl around like a butterfly would. It's also hardy, comes back every year. You just need to trim all that old dead stuff off of all of that. It's nothing that's just doesn't take any work at all to it, because everything totally does. But this takes less and gives you beauty for a long time, all season long. And that little Gara was at the back just as I'm going into my backyard, so I had to come back around to the front yard, because this one is definitely another one that I would recommend. And this is just a bright pink salvia. Sometimes I think it's even called red. It is a beauty. It's hardy. It blooms all the time, all season long, and in the spring you might want to trim back just some of these tops that'll dry out, and then it will just start all over again and give you another showing all season, all the following season. And I pulled up a piece of the other and started this. You'd want to do it early in the spring so it would have a chance to put its root down before the weather got all too hot on it. But it just went right on. It had a little bit of a root with it, and I put it in the ground, and it got to looking puny for a week or So, but then you can tell it's already looking as good as its mother plant. And I see that I have some of my strawberry fields in the pink coming up right here. And that's another little plant. It does come up from seed, but every year it will put down seed if you can just find a place where it'll be easy for it to go ahead and sprout and come up. And it's usually pretty easily done, as long as you don't have it where there's, well, like I have weed control fabric around, and I use that for my mulch. So it does serve two purposes at the same time. But oftentimes that and gravel and things like that will maybe hinder it from just coming right back up the next season. But if you ever want to just scatter or put a plant in and have it scatter its own seed and keep going, I would certainly recommend the Strawberry Fields Gara. Yarrow is even one of my favorites because the same, it's just so easily taken care of. Practically takes care of itself. You plant it and pretty much forget it, and it'll just go right on. Come back the next year, you'll have to trim it down. The old dead stuff will have to be trimmed off, and then it'll just take off and go again. The blue balloon flowers are fun too, and I would recommend them. They're just a little perennial, which means they come back every season. And they will die down to the ground, but they'll come back and get this tall at least. I don't know if they get much taller than this, but this is a good sized little plant, and I love it. It's just so fun because, you know, it just like blows up like a balloon, and then when it gets all blown up, it'll open up like a little blue daisy. But for plant it and forget it, I definitely would go with sedum. Don't really have to worry about it at all, and it comes back, it just does it all by itself, other than it'll look a little ratty in this early spring, but most usually it will come back, unless of course your pot gets the drain hole gets stopped up somehow and it won't handle being in, you know, wet water all the time, or it's getting its roots and its stems all wet. It just won't handle that. But other than that, it's beautiful. Matter of fact, if you've been seeing any of my posts, you'll realize that I'm trying to go to mostly sedum. This is another one of the sedum. This little Indian angel is in. Just looks a pretty green all the time, and then in the fall it actually gets a little tuft of a flower and just looks beautiful, like a little umbel of tiny little flowers that make a bigger flower that the butterflies go crazy over, the bees and all the pollinators. This little green thing is an Arkansas starflower, and it's mostly just a little green plant. In the springtime it does put on a little blue bloom. And I like it, but let me show you another one. This little plant my friend Susie gave me, and it also is an Arkansas starflower, and when she gave this to me I said I already have one, but thank you. And she said, well, you can give that to Rosie, my sister, that well, I think that Susie really kind of made a bond with Rosie just because she took care of her mother, and now Rosie is taking care of our mother, and she knows how hard that is and how wonderful it is too, so she knows the whole gamut of all that. But I gave it away, and then I realized, no, it's not the same. It's so different, because this has this little ferny look to it that I personally like even better than my other one. But they're both pretty, and now I have one of each. So that would be a recommendation too. And in the fall it turns a golden yellow. And you can see I have sedums on the little shepherd's hook that's right above it. And another thing about the beautiful daylilies is, because they do just last a day, you have these little dead blooms all over the place. Every day there'll be a dead bloom out here until they're all gone. And all these other blooms or buds will bloom too. But I like that because it makes it last longer, and you get blooms for a long time, even though they only last a day. These will be gone tomorrow, but more will open up the next day or in a few days. This is one of my favorite daylilies, and it is a spider daylily like this one down here that I just showed to you. But this one, I don't know, I just love it. It's just so big. It's bigger than any of my other ones. Even that yellow one I just shown to you, it's as big, but it's thin, and this one has big, thick petals and wide petals, and just a bright, beautiful orange. I love it with something purple or blue, and I have a blue balloon flower here too, but it has not bloomed yet, and I love it when they bloom together, which sometimes they do. I love this little Sugar Shack button bush, but it doesn't last very long. You can see that most of them are already turning brown, and then the bloom will be gone. But it's still a fun little thing. You'll find lots of things when you start gardening that you'll want to try, most likely. That's what's happened in my case anyway. So, and some of them I've taken out, and some of them just didn't make it. But this one's doing good, and I do like it. So it is fun, even if it doesn't last very long, and then it's just a little green bush the rest of the time. So is the lilac bush. And you know it's worth waiting for those lilacs in the spring. And here's another little place where I just have rose moss, and all of this came up from seed from last year. So it's been little for a long time, and it's still little compared to some of the ones that were started earlier and that I got at the nurseries, but it's looking great now, and it will bloom and be beautiful. And sometimes the ease of having it already come back volunteer is so much better than having to plant everything if you have a big area to plant. This is one of the little sale plants that I got, and this is a hardy hibiscus. I would definitely recommend these. I had one before, and I think a rodent went underneath it, and it didn't ever go back down and re-root well enough for me that it finally just died. But this is the exact same color that I had, and so it's so welcome to have it back, and I got it on sale, so that was a great thing. And here is more of the daylily. So you may want to pick you out a favorite daylily, and just remember you'll need to divide it. I didn't divide one time, and it just went ahead and died. I guess it just thinks if you don't care enough about me to divide me, I'll move along. So I don't know what it thought, but it didn't live for me. But so I've been trying to divide them, and if you have room, it's a great plant to move around in many different places. But then you have many different ones you have to deal with each year, and it doesn't seem like, oh, but that wouldn't be so bad. That's what I told myself. But I've got to the point in my age and different reasons, and just have so many that it is a reason to not have so many, actually, for me now. I could understand if you decided not, though, because I was there once in my life. And here's another pretty daylily. Let me get these old ones off of here first, though, so you can just see the pretty, fresh ones. So to my sister Jetty, I'm also showing this to everybody else, so you'll have to just go along with seeing all these other things if you will. I hope you'll enjoy it, actually. This pot of sedum, and it did take me about 3 years to get it this full, but it's just looking so good. I actually took some of it, clipped it out, and put it in some of these other pots where I started new sedum. So I didn't have to buy a lot of sedum. I have bought several in the past, but I had some of it going, and all you need to do is you can pull a little of it out by the root, or you can clip it off and just put it in the ground. Put it in either honey or rooting powder, that helps it have a good chance so that its little root doesn't rot before it gets going, and they'll just grow for you. Don't give up on them though, because sometimes they look puny before they look great. I even put sedum in this little front pot. This is like my garden greeter and guardian angel. So this place, I loved putting different plants in it and just enjoying it so much. But this year it's just got sedum in it, and you know what? I think I enjoyed it just as much, and I won't have to work so hard with it and keep it watered so much. It's more forgiving to the gardener, and I like that. And we're back around to this little Indian angel, but you can see from this side a little bit more how round and pretty this sedum is, and it's big, and it just makes a pretty showing. I can just imagine what that would look like with some Russian sage and some of the pretty red perennial salvia, some of the catmint. I'm seeing it beautiful. Whether you need plants for sun or shade, this sedum does like sun, and they can live with a little bit of shade too. But they're just a wonderful go-to plant, that's for sure. And then if you're looking for sun plants, coneflowers, and oh my, they come in all kinds of colors now. I have this pretty bright yellow gold, and then I have just the regular purple, light purplish pink coneflowers, and that may be all I have right at the moment. But they're all beautiful, and to me the old one, the old purplish ones are the ones more reliable to come back and to put down seed and put a few more up for you. But yes, I would definitely recommend coneflower, and a lot of these are because I live in Oklahoma and we have hot summers, sometimes drought filled summers, and it's just not, it's hard to find plants that will fit all of that, but the coneflowers do, and all these that I've been telling you about do. This is the catmint again, and I do totally love this little plant. This one is in the ground though, so you can see you just don't get the full effect of it as you do when it's in the pot, but it's still very pretty. Another pretty daylily bloom, and this is my Russian sage, and it is too much in the shade just under the eave of the house, and the shade that the house brings over on it has caused it to not bloom like the ones I've seen downtown. It's still pretty, I still love it, I'll probably still leave it here. It fills in that little area great, but it doesn't show you how beautiful it really can be unless you put it in the sun where it can make all those pretty blue blooms. And it does fill up a large area if you have a large area that you want something that'll be pretty for a long time in. This one will start blooming in the spring and finish up in the fall. And I was going to bring your attention to these red strawberry fields. This is the first color that I had, and they come in not only red and pink, but they also come in white and mauve, maybe even more. I know there's a purple one that I sometimes find at the nurseries, and it's very pretty too. All of them are pretty. It's just fun to have just a little ball that you can call a flower. And this is one of the sedum pots that I have the same sedum in, and it's still beautiful even with just one variety of sedum filling it out. Be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.